Last week I started on a 3-part crown molding. If you missed it, you can go and check that out first. I'll go ahead and wait. But to recap, part 1 was already installed on the ceiling, and then I added spacers all the way around the room and added the baseboard upside down. And we had just gotten started on the first couple of pieces of actual crown molding. This week I attempt to finish up the crown molding. Let's see if I can make all the cuts correctly, or if I might have to go buy more wood. Find out on this week's Adventures of Retrovating. Okay, I am going to try a little trick. Just going to stick a nail in here. Okay, I set another piece of wood up there to take up some of that slack, and I grabbed a screw, but I have a nail in the way. There we go. Okay, maybe that'll work better. The reason for the screw is for leverage. I'm trying to push the trim here to the left to help close up that gap. So the 2 pieces that I already put up, I didn't need to measure because I needed to use the full run. But here I'm going to need to measure. Which is always tricky. 35 on that side. And that is 22 and a half. So 57.5. This looks way too short. I'm adding another screw to help position this piece, and then later I just take it out and fill the hole. Still on. This piece here was already cut as an inside left corner. Okay, and I have another board cut for an inside right corner. Let's see what our angle is going to look like. Could maybe cut it at a 44, probably be a little better. Okay, so we need an inside right there, and this is an inside left to match that piece. Okay, this piece I'm going to cut a little bit long, and then I'll probably trim that one off, although that's going to be really hard to measure. What would I rather do? Let's see, this is 50. 2, 3, 50, let's just say 54. Can someone pass the nail gun? Okay, let's trim this down. Let's see if we have a piece that fits. According to this, it doesn't. It's too long still. All right, let's cut more off. Oh, tell me you fit. You are too long. All right, just use a little crowbar. Pop this off. Gonna pull the nails. Otherwise they'll be in the way when we put the molding back up. Let's see if the 4th time is a charm, or if I might have to go buy more wood. before we put all the nails in again, let's see what we're working with over here. This one fits well in the first try. Taking a closer look here, the depth of this is 1 inch. So we're going to need a 1 inch piece that is a inside right on its left side and an outside left. These are the pieces to go around the vent, and I'm going to use the CA glue to put them together before attaching them to the vent. This gets it a better fit than just using the nail gun. And I really should make sure it looks good on the front. Add a little more here for good measure. Okay, and same on the other side. So it'll just look like that. It just fits nicely. Because of the piece of molding up here, we're gonna work on that later, but I think I'm just going to find a thin piece of stock and maybe route the edge and have that protrude out here so that it finishes off a little better. All right, but let's measure for that last piece. The tedious job of caulking and filling nail holes must continue. Recommend keeping water and paper towels handy. Just have a little bowl of water to rinse my fingers off. It's a good idea. It helps to wet your fingers before you drag them through the caulking. Sometimes I use this little tool. It says DAP cap on it. It also covers the end of your caulking once you cut the tube open. I did start the other day but didn't get very far. This is a wood filler that I'm using. It's very difficult to open. This is how I open it. The spackling knife. Can't think of words. I've been under the weather. My brain's not working well. I really don't want to make too much of a mess sanding, so I might do 2 coats here. Okay, and we'll just continue all the way around the room. Okay, and because I don't want to make a lot of sanding dust, I'm wiping away everything that I can of the wood filler, but that will probably leave indent, so I'll have to go back and do a second coat. Okay, and then the consensus is anytime you have a flush surface, You should use filler. You know, if you had an inside or an outside corner, you would use caulking. Since this is not a corner, we will use wood filler. I started to use caulking and then I remembered the rule. And at this point, I simply continued working my way around the room, filling the nail holes with wood filler. And then the seams with caulking. This is the last piece of trim to complete the crown molding, and it's just a thin piece of plywood that I use the router to round over the edges. It is to go right up here above this little bump out because this molding was on the ceiling when I purchased the condo, and so I needed to kind of make that match a little better. So just like that. Before I'm ready for paint, I need to check the finish. So I'm just running my hand over the trim here to check for any rough spots or any low or high spots. And then I go ahead and sand off the rough spots, making sure everything's smooth. And then if there's any low spots, just go ahead and refill those. Because my wall color and trim are different sheens, I'm going back to paint the wall right where the caulking is so that I don't have a white line between the wall and the crown molding. I also went back and refilled all my nail holes. I went ahead and overfilled them. I don't think there's really getting around the sanding problem. The sanding issue, I should say. So you may remember at the beginning of the video, I started out by painting the trim. And it's always a question of, does it actually save you time? I don't know the answer to that. Okay, so I'm starting with the wall color at the seam. Then I will go back and tape off the ceiling and tape off the wall and put the finish coat onto the trim. And the one part of the molding that came already factory, not factory, but factory to me, I painted the color of the ceiling, which is also, it's actually about a 50% color of the wall, just lightened up, 50% white. So that is part of the crown now, so that needs to get painted. I couldn't avoid sanding, so I tried to hold up a vacuum to catch the dust, but it's not a perfect solution. Sanded first with 150, followed by 220 grit, and then checked for rough spots with my hand. As I sanded, I also taped off the wall and ceiling to prevent another trip around the room and going up and down the ladder. Almost ready for paint. Last step is just to clean off the dust here. I just have a damp microfiber cloth and I'm just wiping off the dust. I'm really hoping that since I already painted the trim before I put it up, that I only need one coat. That would definitely save me time. And then it would have been worth painting before I put it up. I like to go back and do nice long brush strokes to help even and smooth out the paint. There were a couple spots that needed some more of the wall color, and so I left the tape off until it dried. So that's why this corner is missing tape. So let's go ahead and peel off the tape while it's still wet. It comes off easier that way. There is the one spot over the front door that wasn't pre-painted. I am going to need to go back and do a second coat there. So I didn't take that part of the tape off yet. And the screw holes didn't cover very well, so I'll touch those up. I probably should have primed them, but I didn't. Be careful when you take your tape down and it's still wet. Careful what you set it on. You're going to get a little bit of paint on your fingers. And so you don't want to set this on anything you don't want paint on. Ta-da! All right, guys, the crown molding is finally complete. I'm so excited. It has taken 20 years to get to this day because 20 years ago, I bought my first house with my then husband, and I wanted crown molding in the living room, which meant I wanted him to install the crown molding and I would be the assistant. There was no YouTube back then. I had never used a miter saw at that point. So when he said no, there's way too many angles, the ceilings are too high, it's going to be too difficult, what choice did I have? So now, fast forward 20 years later, I have my own condo. There's plenty of YouTube videos to figure out how to install crown molding. I have a miter saw. I've used it many times. I know how to use the miter saw, and if not, I could, always just YouTube how to use it, of course. So 20 years later, I finally got the crown molding that I've been dreaming about. It's even better than the first version of the crown molding I dreamed up, since there's 3 separate pieces involved, which makes it even nicer, fancier, bigger profile, which makes me happy. So let's go check it out. I hope you enjoyed the crown molding install, and if you missed part 1, go back and check that out. For more DIY content, be sure to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.